this fire. I was born to be making history. Something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire.
Hello, guys. Today on the Ember Podcast, we have an amazing guest today. We have some great topics, but before we get into that, I want to introduce my co-host, Sinbad.
What's up, man? Always happy to be back and not dying. Sorry I wasn't here last week, and unfortunately got the flu, so glad to be back in good health, man.
And we got our guest, Heath R2.
Hey guys, just glad to add to the conversation this week.
And I'm D Phantom TV, and we're on the Ember Podcast for those boys in YouTube watching us. So diving right into here, we got our first topic: Intrepid's new employees, the new community marketing lead Margaret Crone, and the new community manager Sarah Flanagan, aka Lieutenant Toast. So, what are our initial feelings about Margaret Crone? And she's been here for about a little bit over a week and a half or so, and she's already made some pretty big strides. What are your initial feelings about that?
Sure. So, for me, I'm really happy to have her on board. She's been very involved in the community, very much so as part of like the actual content creator side of things. She's been taking time to go watch the videos people are putting up and actually respond on them with different comments. And I've seen that she's gone straight to Staven and basically started making changes that are very helpful in terms of communicating and getting out, his message in a way that we can understand it, that I think is a vast improvement to what it has been. So I'm personally super hyped.
What do you think, Keith?
I want to add, back whenever she was hired a week and a half, she was hired as the community marketing lead, of course, but she took the temporary role as community manager, with which Lieutenant Toast is now that role. But after a couple days, we could clearly tell the atmosphere and the community toxicity that has plagued the subreddit, the Discord, over the past month or two, which is a long time. It's vastly improved, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, not only in that, but she also gave us our first patch notes for the APOC BR ever, which, I mean, even though I called her out on it being inaccurate, it was still a huge stride, We definitely needed patch notes for.
We were in the dark before, right? Usually,
yeah, completely in the dark.
Yeah,
mostly it came out to just feeling out like what they might have changed and doing your own testing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It was definitely a little rough. And I remember they didn't give us the patch notes right as they released the gates. It was only when they gave us I think it was half an hour after the open beta was released. That then they gave the patch notes, and I remember kind of still in that same kind of feeling of we're in the dark, what are the changes? And I remember that same game dying instantly by fall damage because I did not realize that they made it big. So that was interesting. But so now moving on from Margaret Crone, so then we got our new community manager, Sarah Flanagan. Now when she was announced as community manager not too long ago, right? About a couple days ago. So she hasn't been able to make some big, improvements. She's still she got announced, I think it was on Friday. So, over the weekend, she's probably still adjusting from it. So we haven't seen much from her yet. But what are we expecting from her?
Well, so for me personally, I'm expecting her to kind of clean up the Discord and clean up the subreddit. Honestly, those two places have become so toxic and so just imbued with this level of trolling that it's made it to where most of the community doesn't really want to participate in that. you basically never ever really go into the Discord any longer unless it's for something that Intrepid themselves have posted. Like, and that's kind of sad, that really shouldn't be how it is, but unfortunately it's gotten to that point because it's been left mostly unmanaged. The moderators have done what they can, but to a certain extent their hands have been tied for a very long time. So I'm excited to see what she can do to kind of clean that up a bit and make it to where this community actually has a healthy, thriving community that's passionate about Ashes. Now, one thing she mentioned was that she's going to be looking at creating other fun in-game events and also real-life events. So I'm wanting to see like what she can come up with for that will kind of put her own spin on it and help us kind of become more and more part of this community.
That going on your Discord topic here, a big thing I want to add on to that is especially we need it to be moderated when there isn't forums or there isn't there's Reddit and then there's Discord. There's nothing really else from that. We need most of the communities now going to the Discord to kind of interact with one another, and they're getting bombarded with trolls. So that definitely doesn't look good.
No, not at all. I mean, you've had it to the point where there was for a while there a good amount of people that would literally troll the moderators or troll Steven themselves, basically just straight up like attack him, especially in the Guild Diplomacy channel, to where, it's like they were literally just, straight up attacking him, like calling him every name in the book, like, being really hateful and really bigoted towards them. So it's nice to see that they're actually putting some attention on the community aspect of that as well and starting to manage that now too, because it was getting seriously out of hand.
Yeah,
I agree, definitely. Do you have anything to add on that, Heath?
This is slightly separate, but when it comes to people posting on Reddit and stuff, if you're new to this game, this community and such, I will say sometimes Reddit, sometimes it's a good place to get information, sometimes not so much. Because I see people comment on videos like questions that are really obvious or they've already been answered and stuff, but they don't know where to go. There's actually an Ashes of Creation wiki that the people over there did a ton of good work on, that you can answer almost like any question you have about it.
That is very true.
Yeah,
definitely. A thing I want to add on that is, I feel like this is kind of off topic, but I feel like Reddit in general, and especially in MMOs or at least in the Ashes Creation subreddit here, there's a lot of miscommunication. Lots of, I don't know, a lot of the facts are not as strong. Like, a lot of people don't get their facts straight, and there's a lot of, I don't know, it's very negative, and I feel like a lot of the community is relying on the forums, but since they aren't up, they're having to rely on these other sources of communication. But when they do, it's very, I don't know, best word to describe it is definitely negative.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, when it comes down to it, you basically have this environment that keeps breeding on itself, keeps kind of like feeding itself the same information and the same kind of like overall negative viewpoints, right? And so what happens is you basically just get the last couple of people that have stuck around for it that are the most negative out of everyone, and that's really all you have left in that community, right? So it's important to kind of infuse it with people that also have differing opinions or have differing, perspectives on these issues, that people can help correct some of the misinfo or can help kind of share or shed light on, basically some of the good aspects of what's going on too. So.
I agree. Definitely.
I was going to say, speaking of good aspects, this is slightly off topic. I will say, since Margaret got hired, everything's been a lot more clean. Like, their last stream, it started on time. It was organized. There was no issues.
Definitely.
That was fantastic. Another thing that I'm really looking forward to is actually the content roadmap, because that will give us like concrete dates that people can like count on and stuff, instead of these lofty approximations that Steven is wont to do often. You know.
Yeah, definitely giving us a more accurate vision of what we can expect from Intrepid. For sure. A lot of people are excited about that. I read, her initial Q&A where Steven answered that question. A lot of people were excited about the content roadmap, and rightfully so. I mean, everyone wants to have a date to look forward to, or to be excited about. And I feel like any date that Steven gives us is like, I don't know, add another month onto that.
Yeah.
And then, maybe we get somewhere.
But no, I feel like they've gotten a little bit better with that. Of course, we've only seen maybe like one example so far, which was the last test that they did. But they actually had the test at the time they said they were going to have the test.
Yes.
They didn't delay it, which was awesome. I mean, like that to me gave me a lot of hope that that's what we can continue to see. And then on top of that, they also had the live stream when they said they're going to have the live stream and it wasn't late. Which is also
you can
a huge
definitely
thing.
see from that, like, she was very organized. Like, she stated before that if anything, she's the most organized person. That's something that I think Intrepid needed, because sometimes it felt unorganized. So for Margaret Crone to step in, I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, fantastic.
Moving on to our second topic, which is last week's Apocalypse BR testing and what we can expect from this week's Apocalypse BR testing. I would say one thing I want to stated before was that was the first. Last week's testing was the first time we got patch notes, which I think, and yeah, that's all I got.
I was gonna say, I do like the patch notes, and like some of them are number changes and stuff, but I'd like to see like the specific numbers, like hemorrhage damage, for instance, from on the Bone Smasher got reduced. I'd like the exact, like it was 10, now it's 5, or it's like 3, 4, 5 based on the rarity that you grab it or something like that.
Right.
I don't know if that's too nitpicky, but I like that kind of stuff.
See, I'm like that too. Going on, I could ramble on, but I've rambled on patch notes before in Ash's discussion and in the Discord, and a lot of people, there's some feelings in there. Anyways, I totally agree with you. I was talking to Margaret, and we were saying, we went back and forth. I initially asked her, I told her that the patch notes were inaccurate, and she's trying her best. There was a couple things that there wasn't anything that she could do. It was, she got the text speak of the patch notes, and she had to translate it into human speak in like less than 12 hours. So
right.
I can definitely see why it was in a rush, but I do, I don't know about any other, how it is in MMOs, but in any game, any game I've played, any MOBA, FPS, anything, the patch notes are 100% accurate. There isn't anything that is stated in the patch notes and that is seen that's a flaw, like that, it's a bug. It shouldn't be in there, and you got to report it. And that's not how it felt when there was a lot of changes that I saw that weren't stated in the patch notes, and I was like, is this a bug? What is this? Like, I don't like.
Yeah.
Right. I think part of that has to do with the size of the team that they're working with for specifically the BR, the Battle Royale. When it comes down to, the patch notes are kind of like a side thing that are nice to have. It's not really something that they probably have like a dedicated person to writing up, just based on my guess on how much people they actually have working on the Battle Royale itself. I mean, if you only have like maybe 5 or 10 people on it, and those people are literally all day just working on fixing different bugs, the last thing that they want to do is then have to make a list of everything that they just fixed for us to kind of ponder through. It's kind of like an extra layer of paperwork for them.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Going on that though, I almost would prefer, I got a lot of hate for saying this, I would almost prefer not having patch notes at all
Really?
than having inaccurate patch notes, because I look at my patch notes like it is the Bible, or it is
fact,
like,
yeah.
yes,
Right.
it is what it is, right? And then for me to die because my asthma dot was changed, I was like, is it a bug? Do I report this, or is this an intended change that I wasn't told about? Like, I don't know what to do from here.
Yeah, I can see that. I kind of agree with you on that point, where if it's not accurate or you're missing info, it does cause confusion. So maybe the best thing for them to do would be to kind of just approach it from like an overall perspective of like, here, these are the major things we fixed, and then make a note saying that there's other changes that also
Yeah.
occurred.
Even if it had like a little thing, a little note in like the fine print, changes may vary, or different changes may not have been stated. I'm fine with that. Like, but like when I'm thinking that the patch notes are 100% accurate, there's nothing else that has changed, I'm gonna approach the game like I always have been.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which I was gonna say another thing, not having to do with patch notes, but one thing I did notice. I'm not like a backer or anything, so I haven't really played as much as you guys may have. But I did notice with like my crappy PC that it felt a lot smoother. Like it felt optimized. I wasn't having many issues at all.
Yeah, that was something I noticed as well, and it's nice to see that they are making those improvements to their back-end code and to the networking of what they're doing, because you could definitely tell there was an improved FPS performance, and it wasn't kind of jumping all around like it sometimes does.
And the hit detection was good.
Oh yeah, which is super important when you're playing action combat. Like, if you don't have good hit detection and you're trying to shoot someone from across the map, it just gets frustrating. I feel like that they actually have definitely done a good job improving that.
now, going in a little bit more in-depth view of the apocalypse, going into the numbers, at the big changes that we saw from the balance patch, and the different things that we saw from it. I thought the two biggest changes, of course, were the fall damage being increased and the limited lunge that you had. And we talked about this on our last podcast, what we wanted the lunge to be, and we pretty much nailed it to where we wanted it to have one lunge, but you're not able to, and you can still lunge high, but you can't lunge more than once. You can't do the triple lunge into the air like Superman.
Yeah. No. So another content creator, Krojak, kind of made a good point. Even though that wasn't realistic, like being able to just like kind of fly through the air and get to places really quickly by lunging. At the same time, it did make the game a lot quicker paced. With that adjustment, it felt like it did become more tactical, which I personally enjoy. But I know a lot of people aren't necessarily into that. They want that like really fast, like movement. Dr. Disrespect says, violence, speed, momentum. Like, you want that fast pace for the entertainment value. But at the same time, there's a lot of games that are like that, like Call of Duty or, other games that, they're fun, but they're kind of mindless,
Yes.
So I do appreciate that they did take that away and that they've made it more tactical by doing so. You have to actually kind of think through your encounters now versus just running in, spamming, and then running out and spamming again.
See, I liked abusing the mechanic to get to high places, or lunge away, getting up on like the ledges on castle, different places that you can reach with the triple lunge. It was fun, but it wasn't realistic, and it was really game breaking. Like, the range, like people, like you said, were able to literally run at me with just their melee weapon and just lunge at me, and there's no way for me. It was such a big gap closer. There was no gap creator. Like, there wasn't, you couldn't do anything against it. It was either you melee or you melee.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, I mean, even after they patched it, I still think melee is a lot stronger than range. Like, don't get me wrong, Nightfall Bow is literally my favorite weapon. I love that weapon. But it's hard to use when people can get to you so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think that they've done enough though to make it where it's viable to use range again, to where if you do see someone come up at you, you can at least get 2 or 3 hits on them whittle down their armor pretty good before you actually get into an encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on then your positioning, like how you're positioning yourself on the battlefield. Like, are you using the terrain as cover to kind of get closer, versus just straight up spam, right lunge spam basically all the way there. What I would like to see more of though is the dodge function, the X key. I want to see more of that brought back in to where it doesn't take so much stamina, and you can use that more to kind of like get away from shots or get away from combat. Because right now it's still, to me at least, it's still kind of useless.
Oh, completely. If you use that, or you jump in a fight, you're screwed. That's all your stamina. Like, there's no reason for you to use it. I want it to have some sort of like, definitely, I think the barrel roll should have some sort of buff of maybe like iframes or something. So kind of like how it is in Dark Souls as well. Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a purpose behind it, and right now there's not one.
It does lunges farther. It's slower. It's pretty bad.
It takes like 25 stamina or something. Here's the thing. I've used it a couple times if I have like my bow out or something, but most of the time it is like you guys said, pretty useless.
Yeah. I would say the next biggest change that we saw was Bone Smasher being nerfed. Everyone wanted it. I think it's it's 2 for the blue quality, 5 for the mediocre yellow, and then 7 for the red legendary.
Right. It's still very strong.
It's still pretty strong. Yeah.
If you get the legendary, it's 7's pretty rough. I don't think you want to take that damage from running away, so you're still kind of stuck there. Sitting there like a sitting duck.
Right. The hard counter, at least now that it does have a good counter to it, right? Like the Spear Pierce or the Archmage Companion, those can actually hold their own against that weapon now, though.
Oh, yeah.
Which, is nice, because with Spear Pierce, you just stamina drain them to where they only get one swing in. And then you could blink away, use a bow real quickly to finish them off.
Yeah, and you can also, even if you take the hemorrhage debuff, you can whip out your shield and take, I think it was like 2 damage or maybe 1 tick damage, depending on what quality your shield is and what quality Bone Smasher they have. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit more, rock paper scissors rather than my gun kills everything.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, which that was a big problem for a while. Like, it was just broken.
Just Bone Smasher. Everyone's running around with that damn giant mace in hand, just smashing everyone. Anyways, does anyone have any other things that they can talk about? Any other changes that we can think of on the last week?
I think the one thing is the fall damage, which I think they just made a note that they had patched that. Which was, basically, since they took away the lunge while you're falling, you would take a lot of damage jumping off of like the castle ledges, for example, if you were trying to get down from like a chest or something like that. So I'm glad that they kind of nerfed that a little bit. It's a little less damage, but I do feel like you should still be able to have they should increase like the minimum fall distance before you take damage, just to help kind of mitigate that a little bit better.
It is a bit much.
It could be maybe incorporate the dodge roll in there or something. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool.
Way to do it, yeah, sure.
Like, if it a certain point you could mitigate, I don't know, maybe 50% or whatever, a certain amount of fall damage if you dodge roll after it, kind of like your parkour.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool.
Anything that takes more skill. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know, like if you did it in the right frame or something, you can. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. It'd be cool. Now they gave us the patch notes for this week's testing. Let me just pull this up. The biggest thing, they talk about their known issues and different things. But not much has changed. They list a lot of small little details, which is great because that's exactly what we want, right? But as for gameplay, nothing really sticks out. It's mainly fixing issues and bugs and, you know, different things like that. User face, kind of the same kind of deal. They added a few things, implemented a few things, but mainly it was just mainly of this patch note, it was fixing and repairing and
A
all
couple
that kind
quality
of
of
stuff.
life stuff. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But I would say the biggest thing that sticks out to me is the VoIP server's stability. So
Mhm.
they're wanting to test they're wanting to test the following: network issues during matches, performance of the server, VoIP server stability, bug fixes, and testing our solo and squad battle royale game modes. So, like I said before, I think VoIP server stability really sticks out to me because this is gonna be the first time we've seen that.
And what is that for those who don't know?
So, for those who don't know, it's the in-game voice channels that you use in any game. So, if you've played, you know, any kind of MOBA, FPS, any kind of game that has had voice comms that you can, speak to your teammates, that's what it is. And we haven't had that in any of our. They've tested it in the alpha, but it didn't really work. It worked for some, didn't work for most. But now this is the first time we're seeing it in the open beta, and with Castle Siege rolling around, we're gonna need the VoIP. We're gonna need those voice comms when we have 100 versus 100. So it's really important for them to like really nail this down in time for Castle Siege.
Yeah.
Which that is scary though. Like 100 people in voice chat,
Yeah, I think I read
do it.
somewhere that they're wanting to do like a voice comm hierarchy where like only like the squad leaders and like the squads get to like talk to each other, but then like the chief and the lieutenant and like or the general will be able to talk to them. It'll be very interesting to see how that hierarchy kind of unfolds.
Yes.
I'm very intrigued because that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that in any game that I've played. At least I've never seen like a gigantic hierarchy of voice comms. So
it sounds difficult, but should be cool.
It does, but I mean that's going to be really nice from just like an overall leader perspective. Of being able to actually manage your people, like being able to nest the different voice comms and have differing levels of permissions. I can then, if they're doing, like I think they're going to do it, I can actually just be in one voice channel and be able to talk to different people by pressing different hotkeys, which will be amazing because then I won't have to be jumping in and out of the game in order to do that, which is what you have to do right now with the Discord. You have to jump in, go into a different channel, talk to those people, jump back out of the game, go to a different channel. Or you could try to use the browser/Discord trick, but even that doesn't really help you if you have more than, 2 different groups you're talking to.
Yep.
It's going to be very interesting to see how they implement that. So I definitely think that them nailing this down in the BR will pay off later because we won't want that kind of, destruction when we're trying to siege a castle.
Right.
We're not gonna want server or freaking voice comms to crash. People are gonna be running around like headless chickens, not knowing what to do. So I think that's the biggest thing to take from this next testing instance for sure. But as for like the most of the patch notes, definitely there isn't too much to go on.
For this week,
for this week for sure. I guess moving on to our third topic, which is the siege mode overview. We're going to be reviewing and just kind of looking at the different things that were given to us in the past week and a half. We had the Ashes of Creation official live stream that gave us kind of like a sneak peek. They didn't want to release too much. But they gave us a little bit, they gave us a teaser trailer. They talked about the classes and skills a little bit. And then they gave us a blog post to kind of give us a good overview and understanding on how it's going to work.
Right.
Now, pulling this blog up, we got... So the Castle Siege map will take place on a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map in size. That's pretty big, right? How does that compare to the BR map?
So I mean, it's probably about
2.5.
a little bit smaller than but for a castle siege, that's huge, considering how much space you really do have in the BR. But a kilometer by kilometer, that's a lot of ground to cover for sure. It makes you wonder how much of that is actually empty space versus the castle itself, or different rooms or different hallways, things like that.
I also the first thing that comes to mind is rendering. I don't one person on the opposite side. I wonder where it's gonna cut off to where archers can somehow take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. It also makes you wonder is that gonna be the size of an actual castle in game once we get to the MMO portion of things? Are we gonna have a kilometer size castle? That might be a little much, but I think it'd be very cool. At the same time, it'd actually be its own unique city in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say the Battle Royale is 2.5 by 2.5 to give some perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. So 1 kilometer is pretty big, 1 by 1.
That is really big.
Yeah.
That's almost just from kind of eyeballing it, the Elven town in the bottom left corner of the BR map. From that corner to probably I'm thinking around a little bit before Rivertown. That's a pretty decent sized chunk of land. It's gonna be very interesting to see how we can work it and the different strategies that come into play with that big of a map for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of different strategies, can I go in that for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I was looking at the video that's on the blog post, and I saw that the Aelin one called Korgan, it's it's pretty straightforward. There's just one way to get into the castle, and the entrance on the sides of it is covered with rocks and crystals and such. But the other one, the Dunzenkel one, Milnar, it was actually built into a mountain, and it was more open. As well, there's actually underground tunnels that they were talking about.
Yeah,
so that's a completely different way of doing it.
That's the human and dwarf castles, right? The dwarven one is on the hill, and then the human one is the traditional castle that we see.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
So those are 2 of them, right? Apparently, in the actual MMO and possibly in Apocalypse, there's going to be 5 in total. So the fact that we see the different styles and the different ways of traversing or attacking underground or whatever, I'm thinking that they might have different strategies for each of these 5 different castles. You know what I mean? They won't all just be copy and paste with a different kind of look.
Right. I'd hope so. I mean, honestly, it'd get kind of boring if that was the case.
It would exactly. Yeah.
So it would make sense from a culture perspective too, to have different types of layouts. A dwarven castle up against a mountain would be much more. I feel it would have more caves and hidden ways in and out of the walls and things like that. Versus a human castle being on a plain or a hill or something. It's gonna be much more traditional, most likely, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be very cool. I kind of feel the dwarven castle might end up being Helm's Deep from the Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, yeah.
That would be kind of neat.
Definitely different strategies going into the different castles for sure. And when we see more, the different styles of castles, I think that's really cool. I've never for this being my first MMO, I've never really seen the different kind of anything
systems
apart from the traditional castle. So it's really cool to see them incorporate it into the different races in the game and so that's cool. So going back to this blog post, so there's an attacking team and a defending team. When you're in the queue, you can select your preferred role of attacking or defending, but it'll put you in priority of whatever your selected role is, but it won't for sure put you in attacking team or defending. So that's kind of cool. I thought it was gonna be completely by chance. You just click Castle Siege mode and it's a 50-50 chance whether you're on attacking or defending. I thought that's how it was gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, if they did it like that, though, it'd be chaos because you would never be able to make a strategy, you know? Like, realistically, if you're going into it, you're going into it with like a pre-made team, right? Otherwise, it's more than likely you're going to get stomped and, you know, it's just going to be like any other game where you're playing competitive with randoms. You know, it's just, it's not going to be a nice time or a pleasant time, right? So I do think that the fact that they are going with, you know, pre-made teams, they're going to most likely have people coming in, you know, 20-man team, 20-man team, 20-man team, each kind of trying to do something, each trying to accomplish a different thing on the battlefield. I think that's going to help us out with getting much more value out of our gameplay in this case.
Yeah.
That raises a lot of questions for me. Like, how are we going to know that, you know, it's going to be so easy for one group to troll the other four? Like, it seems like a lot of like a trust factor, because I played a lot of, you know, played a lot of CSGO, played a lot of different competitive games where like it only takes one to ruin the game. And for something on such a large scale combat, when there's nothing really that much to lose, it's so easy for a troll to come in and just ruin the game for everyone.
That's true. And that's going to be, it's going to be a difficult thing for them to manage realistically. I mean, other than, you know, basically reporting the person, which they'd have to make sure that's part of their terms of service, basically, not to, you know, consciously throw the game, basically.
Also, no, go on.
Well, no, it's all right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if it's like a coordinated group of trolls of like 20 people, then yeah, I think they can make a difference. But if it's like 1 or 2 people, I doubt it'll be that big of a deal.
And I mean, there's going to be, you know, there's not going to be skilled players in each one. You're going to get a couple randoms, which will act kind of not, you know, necessarily wanting to troll, but they're not they're going to be dead weight for sure. So I think, you know, you're going to get the, you know, 4 or 5 people that aren't going to be that aren't going to carry their weight. But
yeah, more than likely.
If like a full team comes in and just could totally ruin the game.
I mean, you could technically do it where you queue as a guild, right? With like, you know, 2 or 3 20-man, you know, groups.
And that's what we're going to see a lot.
Like, what happens if one of your groups ends up on the other team? Do they just sabotage the other team?
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I almost wish that we could have like a server list of some sort to where we could manage it on our own, so that way we could like do guild versus guild, or, you know, practice certain things, and you know, we could go on that a little bit more.
It'd be super helpful if they could do that, where you could host like your own game and have you know, like have that where you can actually do like a private match, because that would help mitigate a lot of it. The problem is that their testing size, the amount of people they have testing is so small that
I know
it's not going to really allow for that, because the second you allow someone to make their own private match, all of a sudden it takes an hour for you to get a queue. You know?
It's going to be hard, especially whenever they first open it up to like the alpha backers and whatever, you know?
Oh yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of there's not going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, initially we're probably not gonna see 100 versus 100. We're probably gonna see, if I had to guess, like maybe 25 versus 25, maybe 30. I don't think it's gonna exceed that until we at least get into like I don't think we even have the numbers of alpha testers to reach more than that, really.
Well, it depends on how they schedule it. If they give us like set periods of time and they stick to those set periods of time, I can work with that. I can actually get my people together, get some formed teams. Other people can probably do the same thing, but when it's so random, like it has been with the BR, you know, up until just very recently, you know, it made it nearly impossible for you to get like a set team going other than maybe 2 or 3 people, you know, just because people have work, people have life, people have, you know, things going on, and they can't, you know, be expected to just, you know, drop a hat, go test this game. So it really is going to depend on how they do that. Probably the first month or so, we're not going to see anything really competitive out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And when do you guys, just like completely opinionated, when do you guys think we're going to see our first like instance of Castle Siege tests?
I'm thinking probably by like the end of February.
Okay.
More than likely.
Yeah, I was gonna say about a month or so. So exactly.
You know, just consider where they're at with the BR. They're not a completely functional BR yet. No. And so them pushing out the Castle Siege, maybe they'll have like a spot test like their first spot test or something. But if it doesn't come out within the next week, it's not happening this month.
No, I definitely don't think they're gonna have it this month.
Yeah.
I think realistically, I actually hope it comes out in like a month or so, because it'll give time for the BR to, I want the BR to be running 24/7, have it, really locked down, and then start, then incorporate the first instance of testing for the Castle Siege.
Yeah. From a balance perspective, I'm wondering how that's going to work out, like in terms of attackers versus defenders. Like let's say if it's easier to defend than it is to attack. If they start keeping a scoreboard of the people that win these things, you might have people always queuing for the defender role. So I'm wondering how they're going to decide.
If they're going for the W, yeah.
Which,
I mean, if you're putting in 30 to 35 minutes, you probably want to win. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've been always wondering what they're gonna do leaderboard wise, both in the BR and Castle Siege. Like, how are you going to kind of regulate that? Like, how are you going to especially that's why I thought picking your own role was a little weird, because you could go. I'm guessing there's gonna be an advantage on it's gonna be really hard for them to balance it. Like, it could be very defender sided. It could be very attacker sided. Then people only queue for attacker, and then it gets to the point where people who don't get it's almost going to be a coin flip meta, to where whether you get put on the right side or not.
Right. And not only that, but just choosing your classes, right? So if they don't have, let's say they have you can only have X amount of healers or X amount of DPS or X amount of defenders. If they don't have that built into this mechanic where you can just go in and all pick, let's say you could all pick healers or all pick DPS or something, you could have some really weird, crazy metas form out of that real fast. So it's going to really depend on how they approach that, if they're actually going to limit it or if they're going to say just go wild. Because if it's just go wild, I could see you could basically make it where it's impossible to essentially attack and defeat a defending army.
Yeah, they did say in the past live stream that so far that's how they have it. Like, you can have 100 healers if you thought that was a great idea. But yeah,
that's gonna be interesting, man.
I don't like that, because it reminds me so much of Overwatch. You get to if they make it so you can change role or change your character in game, like while you're dead or something, it'll be exactly like Overwatch. That's how it was in the beginning of Overwatch. You were able to have 6 Reinhardts and just go crazy. You could have 6, whatever, and then you could all change at the same time. It just made for game-breaking gameplay. I didn't like it at all. It just felt so unnatural and unneeded.
I mean, that's what I was thinking already. I mean, if I'm gonna play like that, I'm gonna put 20 shield wall guys in a hallway and then have another 20 healers just behind them. You're never getting through that. There's no way. How are you gonna get through that?
I really hope they don't do that.
This is what I think. So right now they do have it where it's only single class. That's what they said. And I think they should stick with single class because, first of all, the Castle Siege is just for testing. This is Apocalypse. I think in the actual game, composition, creation is like a pseudo mini game, strategical aspect on its own. And then also in the MMO, you're not going to be changing classes. You have your character and it can do what it can do, Yeah. That's what I think.
I definitely think it should reflect the MMO a little bit more and not let you change your classes. That's just a slippery slope.
Changing on the fly kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. You should be locked into your choice. Because at that point, at least you have to think about it, right? You have to actually think about the team composition. You have to think about, okay, I'm going to be looking for, the best healer or the best DPS to fill this role. Versus, hey, can you just rotate your role for me and then whatever you need, okay? In the beginning, you might just literally have a DPS ball, just overrun them with DPS. I could see that happening pretty quick, in the very beginning of the fight, and then just push them back until you get to their spawn and kill them. Just keep kill them as they spawn in one at a time.
Maybe it's the MOBA coming out of me, but like I love trying to counter draft and drafting in general. Like that's a big part of the game. Like not the game, but big part of a game. So much strategy and so much thinking into that point where you can win or lose a game in the first before the game even starts. I love that. I think that's if they have a bad draft and if their strategy wasn't good, then it sucks to suck.
That's true.
That's why. No, go on, Sinbad.
I was gonna say, like, that extra layer of thinking it through. That's what makes a game fun to me. I don't like games that are mindless that you can just go and basically cheese it. That's not fun. At the end of the day, you might have some fun for like the first 2 times you do that, but at the end of the day, it's not gonna be something you want to keep playing.
See, the thing is, that's why we have these organized, well-led guilds. Like Ember, for instance. So we can exploit that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's what I like drafting too. For another reason of like you could run the same draft, but play it completely differently, or you can draft to like such a niche and pseudo game style and game to the point where you can do so many different strategies and there's so many ways to mess around with it. Like you'll see that in MOBAs all the time where they have the general meta, but then people run these wacky picks, but their game style supports it. So then they can do some crazy stuff with it, and that's what I want to see in Castle Siege. I want to see it honestly look like a MOBA than anything else. At least this mini game, this little testing instance.
Right. I could kind of see that being the closest analog to it as well when it comes down to it, because you are probably going to have different channels. You're probably going to have different lanes, I should say. When it comes to attacking different points, it seems like you're going to have different control points you have to take over. So there's a lot of similarity. And I'm not sure if they'll have this in the APOC, but from what it seemed like in the game, the actual MMO, you'll have different NPCs and different like little mini bosses you'll have to overcome too. So there's a lot of similarity.
Looking into the blog post that they put out, they had a header saying what will be different in the MMORPG. Yes. They say that this is only to, it provides Apocalypse for early testing. While it's a somewhat smaller scale experience than the one you'll have in the MMO, the overall flow of taking and defending a castle will remain similar. So the scale may be misproportioned, but you're going to see the same kind of mechanics and same overall flow of it. So, which makes me believe that it's probably going to be the generally same idea of what we're going to be doing. We're still going to be sieging a castle in the same way. There might be a couple of added features, couple things, different castles and different, classes, but generally going to be the same.
Talking about classes, so we have, I think, 6 total classes, right? One of the ones being my favorite, which is Hawkeye, just because I'm a ranged character. So if you want to kind of just talk about some of those unique abilities each class brings to the table, like what their the role is. With Hawkeye, you have the ability to essentially single snipe targets, and that there will be still headshot damage. So I'm guessing you could probably, if you got a lucky headshot on someone, or a skilled headshot, I should say, you probably could take down someone in one shot.
Especially another Hawkeye. I'd say.
Yeah. Aim for the same person that's standing still. Mage. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Yeah. Now the other part of that is that you actually can control your arrow. So you could actually aim an arrow around a wall, like a guided missile.
It's one ability you have.
Yep, and then
not all your shots.
You also get a grappling hook on top of that, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that works.
So it's like you're not. So I'm guessing you're not going to be able to move after you take that shot. And will you be like? I wonder if the camera's going to follow the arrow, or you're just going to shoot it around the corner and hopefully you hit somebody. Like,
I wonder how it'll follow the arrow.
It's going to be following the arrow. From what they said in the live stream, it's going to follow the arrow, just like a guided missile is in like Call of Duty.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, there's the grappling hook, which is similar to like Widowmaker in Overwatch. Yeah.
So that's a lot of mobility. That's a lot of high damage that you can essentially pinpoint and control. So, I mean, if you don't have a shield wall up, if you don't have a guardian up protecting you so that arrow can't get through, your backline's going to get torn apart.
Very interesting. So, I have a question on that. Do you think, out of the 2 DPS classes, Arc Wizard and Hawkeye, which one do you think is going to be more overpowered?
Honestly, as much as Arc Wizard with its AoE ability is going to be a force to be reckoned with, right? Like, I can see a group of Archwizards, what do you talk about that word? I can see a group of them just like laying down AoE on like on a single point, right? But at the same time, if you have 1 or 2 Hawkeyes, they can just pick away those Archwizards basically from a mile away,
Yeah.
So I think that ultimately the Hawkeye is going to be the more potent and the more focused DPS.
I mean, I agree that the Hawkeye will definitely have better single target damage, but I think the mages will probably have the meteor, but they also have the flamethrower. So you could be hiding behind your Reinhardts, essentially your guardians, with their shields while you're using a plume of fire over everybody. So I don't know.
Could be. But then you have to think about, okay, what's the distance of that, right? Like,
it's short. You're right.
So it depends on like how are you using it. If you're using it in like really close quarters, an Archwizard with a Guardian might be a really good combination. But if you get in like a long hallway or if you get into any kind of open courtyard, those situations, I feel like the Hawkeye is going to shine. Especially with the ability to shoot around corners. I mean, you could just basically be hiding behind one little section of the like a wall or something like that, and be shooting and hitting your targets.
Yeah.
Now, there's 3 kind of umbrellas of the different classes. You got the warrior classes, you got the DPS classes, and you got the support classes. We already covered the Arc Wizard and Hawkeye, which is under the DPS umbrella. Now, moving on to the second umbrella, the warrior classes, we got Guardian and Weapon Master, where Guardian has the sword and shield and a 2-handed sword. The Weapon Master has a halberd and 2-handed axe. So what kind of abilities do we know about the Weapon Master?
So as far as the main ability that I know of, it's a leap ability that lets you leap over your enemies and get into the back line. Kind of think of it like a berserker class where you just kind of have like this spin to win mechanic as well. So you can literally just hit a button and then start spinning. Those are going to be something to watch out for. If you see them coming in too close, it's going to be on your like Archwizards essentially to DPS them down real quickly. Or up to like your Guardians to essentially hold the line, make sure their shields are up so they can't jump over it.
To peel, yeah.
Yep.
So now the Guardian's the one with the shield Reinhardt kind of ability, right?
It has, the shield, it not only does it shield things, obviously, but it absorbs damage and then explodes in an AoE. Also, the Guardian has an AoE pull. Like, it can grab a lot of people and pull them towards him.
Yep.
So you could potentially pull them towards their own damage and then explode it back at them.
Or just have a meteor drop right on top of them as well.
You could play onto that for sure. That's interesting. Any kind of AoE crowd control spikes my interest because you can do some insane things like that with those kind of abilities. Out of those 2 classes, which ones are you guys opting for?
Personally, I'm going to be going for the Guardian if I play it. Just because that Guardian ability to put down a shield in a tight area, that's going to be super useful. You'll be able to do quite a lot to choke a point, basically, to prevent people from getting past it. But also, if let's say you do manage to get around someone, you basically go put down your shield, let them kind of come into your line. You can then put up your shield, use your call ability, your taunt ability, grab their attention, and then just basically have your DPS shoot them in the back.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think the Guardian looks super strong. I'd definitely play that.
See,
What about you, Danny?
I think Weapon Master is where I'm gonna try that one for sure.
I can see it.
Game
you go
behind
ahead, Will.
enemy lines like that, you could do
Yeah.
some serious damage if uncontested.
Oh, yeah.
If you do it right, it can do some scary. I don't know. You can do some crazy things with that.
No, I see a young Phantom, going behind enemy lines and just like nuking their backline, all those mages with the AoEs. Like I can see that happening.
I think there'd definitely be a force to reckon with. If
Yeah.
not Hawkeye, I'm definitely gonna go for Weapon Master, being my second choice. Now, going on to the third umbrella, the last one, the support classes. We have the High Priest and the Engineer. The High Priest has the Scepter and Staff, and the Engineer has the Crossbow and Mace. So, what when they say mace, are they talking about like the lightning mace from the BR?
I think
bet.
so. Yeah, more than likely. But they will also have a crossbow, so they will have some ranged ability. And we know that they're basically the repair class, so they can repair walls, they can repair different items. I think I'm not sure if they said they could repair armor or weapons or not, but
Yeah. I was gonna say the High Priest and the Engineer. I think they're really important to have because the High Priest can regen your health and stamina, and your Engineer can regen your mana and your armor. So I think that's really important to have.
Interesting.
I doubt it's going to be like the Battle Royale where you pretty much always have enough mana,
How is mana? Do they say how mana is gonna work?
similar to the Battle Royale, they said that you would have a passive regen on it, but I'm not sure how quickly that would regen. So
Interesting.
it could be that your engineer is actually pretty needed for any of your DPS classes.
So they're kind of like ammunition suppliers in a sense.
Yep.
Very interesting. Now, do you think engineers will be able to repair like siege weapons?
Yeah,
Like if
Yeah.
like a ballista gets destroyed, they'll be able to go over there and just repair that back up.
Yep. I'm kind of looking at like almost like the the mechanics or the engineers from Battlefield, right? Like
Okay.
to where they can go repair tanks, they can go repair different items on the battlefield, and then also just drop ammo packs for you. So be kind of nice to have around, I think.
And I mean, like they're not completely useless in combat either. I mean, mace and crossbows, they can be strong. Like they'll definitely be able to hold their own if like a weapon master gets behind enemy lines. They'll be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
It's not like they're like some wimpy little angel that can't do anything. Like Mercy.
Yeah.
We're not gonna say names though.
Speaking of Angel, they said that the High Priest actually has Divine Form, which is the ultimate ability they had in the Alpha Zero.
Yep.
You guys know that one? It's an AoE, does damage to enemies and heals friendly. So I wonder if the other classes will have these massive like ultimate abilities as well.
It's a good
That
question.
reminds me so much like Overwatch then. You're gonna have to build it through damage and doing different objectives, and then that's gonna be interesting.
It's kind of like since it's basically from playing like at PAX West or PAX West back in the day, they had that ability where it's like literally just a totem you put down, and within a radius around that totem, anything that's friendly is healed, anything that's the enemy is basically damaged over time in that area. So I'm wondering how susceptible that totem would be to damage if you could basically destroy it.
I think
Now,
they should, just because I saw the Alpha Zero footage and the totem seems so strong. I'll say that.
Yeah, they should be able to destroy it. Like basically, if you're gonna put that down, you need to basically protect it with your Guardian class or something. Because if you're a Hawkeye, you should be able to hit that a couple times and it should be destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, which one of the support classes allows it so you can shoot your friendlies and heal them like Anna?
That's
in
the
Overwatch?
High Priest.
Okay.
So I'm guessing their staff or something.
It's the Drifter, I think, that
Okay.
you use for the healing.
Interesting. So the engineer is going to be more of like your utility kind of support, and then your high priest is going to be more of like your traditional like real like heal heavy support.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Should be fun.
Which I got to play the High Priest and it was broken. Like you couldn't kill it. So I'm hoping that they nerfed it enough to where it can be killed at least.
Yeah.
Balancing in this is a big factor. Like there's so much to balance. It's gonna be very interesting how they incorporate that. Like they haven't done. I mean, they're still trying to get the BR up and running, but they haven't balanced it too much. So I'm kind of scared to kind of
see the Castle Siege one. Yeah. The thing is, they don't have the Battle Royale is like a lot less people in that testing area. The Castle Siege, they don't have enough internal testing to get an accurate representation.
Right,
so it's gonna be a crap show for the alpha testers early on. It's gonna be stupid, I bet.
I wonder how they're gonna make it to where the book can shoot down a hall. If it hits like the first shield guy, does it only hit that first shield guy? Can it go past him? Because if not, you could literally just put down a couple of those healing totems, and like you're on your front line, and have just rotating guardians, and never. Basically never a situation where you could DPS enough through that wall.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
There's a lot of things to factor in, and with the 3 modes that they have in APOC, they're going to be having to balance each one with every little patch that they bring in. Like, it's a lot to do with such a small team, like, as opposed to like a AAA studio. They don't have a big enough team for this many modes, I don't think, especially... They also have to work on the MMO. This is completely apart from the MMO. They still have to balance 3 modes, or else it's a shit show.
The good thing is, though, that at least with the Castle Siege, that can be directly related to the MMO itself, right? In terms of balance, because that node, like they said, will most likely be very similar, kind of like a scaled down version, but very similar to the Castle Sieges in the MMO. So I'm hoping that they can take at least this data and make it a one-on-one comparison.
Yeah, and also Steven was saying that the Castle Siege is the primary guild versus guild content, so it's going to be really important. Another thing I wanted to say that this is going to be in the MMO, not necessarily in Apocalypse, is something that'll be different is you can actually summon siege monsters, which I think is really interesting. And I bet that we're going to see testing for those monsters during Horde mode. Because we'll be defending the castle before their inevitable fall. So, I know it's a little off topic, but I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think so too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they snuck in a little bit of lore here and there. I think the little bit that we have is pretty neat. I'm still kind of fantasizing about the idea of like the different races and the different castles that is linked with them. I think that was really cool. I'm fanboying a little bit over here.
Oh yeah. Well, so just with like the different styles of castles within each race, like that alone, it's going to be really nice. Like the Valian, for example, like their Persian style castles, which we've seen in some of the videos from the early live streams that they did. I'm super pumped for that because it's going to be a completely different environment versus like the traditional, castles you saw in medieval Europe, for example. But then again, also with like the elves, like right now we've only seen like the high elves.
The Aelin?
Yeah. And for the ones that, what are the wood elves called again? Let me see if I can look it up real quickly.
I'm not sure.
Basically, the wood elves, the ones that are more in line with like nature and things like that. With them, I'm wondering how their castles will look. Will it be like giant trees that like lift up, and form like these walls with their branches, or will it be like will it be stone? Like I'm not sure how they're going to make that look.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. Another cool aspect of the different castles, like the different strategies that are going to be incorporated with the different castles, like the tunnels. I'll be completely, you have to finick with that. And if, like you said before, with big trees, you're probably going to have to, high ground will be a big thing in there. Like,
oh yeah.
There are traps too. You can set traps.
That's also a thing too. You know, oh man, it's gonna be great. I can't wait. I'm psyching myself up a little bit too much here. I still have to wait like a month.
You gotta set your expectations, you know.
You also have the difference between like the two orc species, you know, like the Vec being like a very Aztec kind of species, you know, and then the Renkai being almost like samurai. Like there's gonna be a lot of variety in terms of what castles, what cities, what nodes we have, in just terms of their architecture and layout. For
What about
instance,
Tolnar? Sorry.
well, the Tolnar, that's gonna be a little bit different. I'm not sure how they're gonna make that work. 'Cause
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with that.
it's all underground basically. So I'm not sure. Maybe it'd be like a cave system. But if I was realistically attacking a cave system, I'm just gonna put down explosives,
Yeah.
destabilize it, cause it to collapse. Oh man. Or like the Nikua, you know, like the Samoan-looking dwarves, basically. Yeah. I wonder how their castles would look, considering that they're mostly beach and, you know, island dwellers. You know, if they would even have a castle.
Have like a little hut.
These also these castles, whenever we see them in the MMO, we're gonna have almost a horde mode thing. Like there's gonna be monsters and stuff in them, and then we need to take them, and then we defend them against other players. Like that's how it's gonna work.
Yep. So I'm wondering if the castle architecture will change based on who the majority species is that's controlling it, or if it will stay the same, if that will stay static, unlike the nodes, you know?
I figure they'll be static because they'll just be
I figured that
castles
as
after
well.
the fall, you know? So, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, only time will tell. If we don't have anything else to go on this topic, and we don't have enough, I don't think we have enough questions for a Q&A segment.
We can answer like the one question. It's whatever. But if you don't want to, that's fine.
Oh yeah, we can. We have a question from Totem Poster. What is everyone's thing they want to test, learn first when we get hands-on alpha MMO?
For me, it's going to be testing out the classes, like figuring out like what classes and how they feel, you know, especially with the combination of the combat, action combat, and then tab target.
Yeah.
But then the second biggest thing is going to be figuring out the guild systems, understanding how that works. You know, what the initial starting size of a guild is, how long it takes to level it up, and get how much people you get in with each level. Because those things are super important to know. Without that, we're kind of flying blind. You know.
I think the first thing I kind of want to test, learn is definitely the combat system, making kind of testing out how much of action combat, how much tab targeting I want, how much, and then they're gonna have player killing and corruption in Alpha 1, right? Testing that out too, testing all those kind of PvP, all those that's gonna be my first thing, testing all that kind of stuff.
For me, okay, well, I'm not a backer, so I'll be on the sideline, absorbing all this information. But if I could, I'd like to test the artisan systems, like gathering, refining, crafting, all that stuff. Then secondarily, I'd be like Danny. I'd be testing the class combinations and trying to get an OP class or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Which, by the way, guys, future promo for us. Once that stuff starts hitting, we're going to be posting as much informational videos about it as possible.
That is true.
Sweet.
Content out of the wazoo.
Oh, yeah. So stay tuned for that, guys. It's going to be pretty fun.
I can't wait for that. That's going to be coming out Q2, last time we heard. So hopefully around June, maybe
June. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Soon, TM. Anyways, since that's all the questions that we have, I'm gonna wrap this up. Heath, where can these guys find you on your platforms or?
I'm a brand new streamer. You can follow me on twitch.tv/HeathR2. It'd be nice to get a follow. Drop in and say hi. That's always nice.
What about? I guess what you want to go next, Sinbad?
You can go next, man.
All right. Well, my name is DPhantomTV. You can catch me at twitch.tv/DPhantomTV. You can catch me on my YouTube channel. I think it's DPhantomTV as well. I'm going to be posting a lot of my footage from my stream onto there. It'll be lots of fun. Maybe tips and tricks on the BR and the different Castle Siege, kind of strategies and whatnot. Hashtag #1 Ashes player. But yeah, and any weekend testing that it's gonna be, I'm streaming it. So make sure you guys are watching and learning. That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, of course, I am Sinbad. I'm the leader of Ember. We are a PVX guild. We're all about content creation. I'm all about testing this game and sharing our passion for Ashes of Creation. For me personally, what I'm most just interested in is making sure that I share that passion, that knowledge that I've been able to collect with everyone that I can. So if you guys are interested in checking me out, you can go online to twitch.tv/Sinbad_IRL. Or you can also check me out on our YouTube channel, which is, Ember TV, as the last part of the link there. So feel free to check us out. As a guild, we're PVX. We're all about the economy. We're all about trying to dominate that in game. If you're looking to have fun with a really active and awesome group of people, check us out. You can find us at embers.us. Or in our Discord, which we'll be posting the link down below, especially on the YouTube channel as well. So feel free to stop by and say hello.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
This fire. I was born to be making history. Something greater, something higher. Ain't nothing gonna stop this fire.